nice having an audience with the same energy levels as me. How are we doing? We all right? Are we surviving in today's world? Yeah, good. Somebody said to me the other day about how ignorance is bliss, but I thought, how do they know? But I just find everything at the moment is somehow terrifying and boring at the same time, which is weird. It's like being crushed to death by a wall with beige paint drying on it. Like, but fucking hurry up as well, because this is so awful. And I don't pretend to be not ignorant. I think I'm regularly certain that I haven't got a clue about anything, and then I'm occasionally surprised when I end up where I meant to be, or don't poison myself, or don't fall in a well. But I just find at the moment all I do is catastrophize about fucking everything, just everything. Like it's a nice day, I'm walking around going, well, the end of the world feels great on my skin. That's all I do. It's part of that, I think, is because I'm a parent. I've got a 16-month-old daughter, which means I haven't slept in 16 months. And it's also why I look like this, by the way. Just it's the best thing I've realised about parenting is that finally I can justify the way I've been looking for years. I've always been covered in bits of piss, shit and vomit and food and looking fucking knackered. But finally I have a reason, which is very lovely. But I do. Someone said to me that when you have a kid, you become, you're able to understand or contemplate your own death a bit more easily, right? And that's meant to be because of mortality and you've passed on to the next generation. I can see that, but for me, it's more because I am an atheist and I don't believe in an afterlife. And that means when you die, there's nothing. And that sounds amazing. So what, you die and that's just it? So when can that happen? As soon as? That'd be fucking... great. I am so... I live on coffee. I've had so much coffee today. I just drink just tons of the stuff. And people have coffee because it's meant to keep them awake. It doesn't really do that for me. It makes me need to shit unexpectedly. And that keeps me awake, but out of fear, which is very different. But it's every day. What I've discovered is I've got a little one she's a toddler, and that means that every day she tries to impale herself on something new, or eat something dangerous, or headbutt something dangerous, or just throw herself off the highest thing possible. And it's weird. It makes you really wonder how human beings have survived as a species, because in medieval times they didn't have fucking stair gates. Do you know what I mean? In Neanderthal times there weren't soft play. Everything there was made of teeth. So. How have these kids survived? And maybe they didn't, and maybe they're just, we're the more conscientious people that have survived, more safety conscious, but it's not. We're obviously not. You see people in society now who have just never stopped being toddlers. People who go, well, we survived 2 wars, we can survive a no deal. Well, not everyone died from the plague, so I can definitely punch a lion. Yeah, the Library of Alexandria did burn down, but I own a book, so everything's going to be fine. Just fucking people like that. So, but you have a toddler and everything is that kind of chaotic catastrophe. And you spend your life trying to... So far, my last 16 months have all just been about keeping her safe. You suddenly learn new things that you've never had to do before, like little things like when she was 4 months old, we had to get her a passport, and they said that the pictures on the passport had to be signed by someone who'd known the applicant for at least 2 years. How do we find out about her past lives? Or when they're a little baby, they have to always be wearing one more layer of clothing to you. And then last summer there was that big heat wave, and she was in just a nappy, and I kept getting in trouble at the park. But but there's more serious things. There's more serious things like vaccinations, right? And before my daughter was born, I always thought the anti-vaxxers movement, people who believe vaccinations are dangerous, I thought they were completely bonkers because science and truth. And then you have a kid, and suddenly you have to get them their vaccinations, and everything takes on a different stance. I started to sort of understand anti-vaxxers and maybe sort of understand their perspective a bit more, and maybe even kind of support them and their cause. But that is mainly because I hope all their kids will die or get measles, and then my daughter, who's had her vaccinations, can become queen. So, just about giving her a lift up in life, isn't it? But it's having a kid, you have to sort of... what I'm finding very hard is I used to be a humanitarian, which if you don't know what that is, that's a person who only eats other people. And I'd sort of become more of an optimistic nihilist in that I know everything's fucking pointless and I'm fine with that now. But you have a kid and you have to start trying to find the positive in stuff. And that is really tricky in today's world. How do you find the positives in climate change? The ocean's full of plastic. Where's the positives? Oh, well, some of the fish people eat will be ready Tupperware. It's not good enough, is it? You know, it's terrifying. And it's hard to get that out of my head. Every day I just sort of think about it and go, what the fuck? I can't do anything about this. I don't know how to save the planet. I've stopped using straws because fish don't need them. The water's right there. And... I've stopped. There's little things that you can do. You can not flush the loo every time you piss, and that will make very little difference to the planet, but it does mean your partner will fucking hate you and your flat will reek. Things like that. But all the while you're trying these little things, and yet you're aware that there's 3,000 coal factories churning out shit every single day that you can't do anything about. And I don't know how to stop those. I don't know how to shut them down. I've never done anything like that before. At best, I once evacuated a lift, and if anything, that involved me releasing gases, so it wasn't very helpful, And it's so tricky to look at that situation and go, how do I find the positive in this for her? And it's particularly hard, I think, when I just keep feeling like a lot of people don't prioritise things correctly. Like, that's what I get upset about every day, is I get upset about that. I get upset about the fact that we've now got a Prime Minister who's a sex pest haystack, and... whose main plan for... it's incredible, isn't it? We have a Prime Minister whose main achievements ever in politics were to spend millions of pounds on a bridge that didn't happen, spend millions of pounds on an airport island that didn't happen, and then build a cable car over the only part of London where there's nothing to see on ground level. And, he's a man who looks like someone's poked eyes into a raw chicken, and... and it's incredible that we have a Prime Minister who makes Katie Hopkins look progressive because all the racism she uses is at least modern. So, it's I always found it weird, just instantly. One of Boris Johnson's comments, you might remember, is he said that Muslim women look like letterboxes. And there's a lot of issues with that statement. It's racist, but also letterboxes aren't black and not made of material. And why is it that when he was a kid, all the letterboxes he used had eyes behind them? Why has no one questioned that? That's fucking weird, isn't it? I just think someone needs to look into it. But here's the thing, is there's all these things going on, right? And I find that yet people still seem to mostly prioritise weird shit and get angry about weird shit that I think, why do you care? Why is this important to you? They made a vegan sausage roll! Don't eat it. That's all you have to do, don't eat it. If it bothers you that much, don't eat it. It shouldn't bother you that someone's eating something that you're not. The only time it should bother you that someone's eating something that you're not, it should be if they're eating you, right? If they're eating you, get annoyed, right? Then you can be, they've eaten my baby. You can be upset, right? Otherwise, not your business. Someone's changed their gender. So what, have they changed your gender without asking? No. If they've done that, you can be livid. I've woken up, I don't know how to piss, right? You'd be fucking livid, right? Someone else's business. Just fucking leave them to... The only time you should ever be upset about what someone or something else's gender is when you're learning another language. It's fucking confusing. Why do I need to know if this table's male or female? Is it going to try and fuck another table or give birth to a smaller one in the middle of it? No! Stop it! But that's what people are bothered about, Or people online seem to be very upset about the fact that they can't be offensive and racist in the way they want to be anymore. Bloody PC culture means I can't say this list of words I'm now going to say. It really baffles me. And then when you call them up on it, people they make themselves the victim. Maybe actually me drawing swastikas on that synagogue was my creative outlet, and now what I'm meant to do. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's so bizarre. I like... Somebody recently complained to me that you shouldn't just call everything racist, as apparently that dilutes the word, which isn't how words work. Words don't work like that. If you dilute a word by using it, we wouldn't have cheese anymore. There's fucking loads of cheese. You just get through an aisle and cheese. It's not a thing. I've never seen anyone crying in the park, and when I've asked them what's up, they've gone, my dog ran off and I started saying his name, but I said it too much and it just vanished. It's not a thing. It sort of bothers me that this is what people get upset about when there are quite serious things. That's all my mind's consumed with, and trying to find the positives. In Brexit, for example, it's very... I don't care. I don't care what you think. People had reasons for and against. I was never sold on the main arguments, which were take back control. No, I'm all right, thanks. I've got a lot to do already. I mean, I just never really... I don't want more stuff to do. That sounds exhausting. Do you know what I mean? I am Spider-Man. When I was a kid, he was always my favourite superhero, Spider-Man. And his catchphrase was always, with great power comes great responsibility. And I always thought, nah, you're all right. I'm quite happy doing nothing. I'll sit on my bum and not be powerful. It sounds great to me, you know. And the other argument that never got me was the anti-immigration one. I've never got it when people go, we've got the best country in the world, but don't come and check. That's weird, isn't it? We're absolutely brilliant. Please don't come and have a look. It's like saying, oh, my girlfriend's really fit. Oh, show me a picture. Nah, she doesn't show up on film. You know, it just feels like a cheap excuse. But it's looking at these situations and saying, well, I've got a kid, she's got to live through this, how do I find the positive in this? And like, for example, Brexit, I can find an easy positive in that I'm type 1 insulin-dependent diabetic, so I think a no deal would be the best result for me because I'd run out of insulin in about 2 to 3 weeks and then I'd die, then I wouldn't have to hear about fucking Brexit ever again. And that sounds amazing. Not so good for my daughter, although if we had a no deal, we wouldn't get as much fruit and veg and then I wouldn't have to force her to eat them and then we can use that extra time training her to fight for water. So, you know, you've got to find these little moments, haven't you? It's tricky trying to find I don't know how you feel. I find it hard to find positives in people at the moment. Like, I read recently that human beings are the only altruistic species, and I thought, well, that's a lovely thing to know. Like, we're the only species that gives to other people on the planet that we've never met before. It's probably because we fucked up their lives in some other way and feel guilty about it. But, you know, other animals don't do that. Other animals, you don't have a squirrel gathering extra nuts in the winter for the African ground squirrels. And if they did, you go, they eat insects, use Wikipedia, you twat. But, you know, and we give to other species, again, probably because we've ruined their lives, but they don't do that for us. You never have a whale helping your Kickstarter, you know. So, and I love that, but I feel concerned because that's not the side of humanity that I see. It's definitely not my main quality, you know, being altruistic. I was reminded by my wife of, I was going on a honeymoon a couple of years ago, and it was the first holiday I got to have in years, and I was so desperate to go on this holiday, and we're finally on the plane, and a man in front of us, he passed out. He had a bit of a fit, and he passed out, and his wife started screaming, and the whole cabin was really stressed, and flight attendants started rushing over, and they were all checking he was all right, is there a doctor? It was all really stressful, and in my head I was just thinking, please be all right, please be okay, because I really need this holiday, and if the plane gets grounded, we'll lose a day at the hotel, and I've paid for that. And, you know, it's tricky, isn't it? I just think, you know, we live in a very selfish world at the moment. The road I used to live on, I've just recently moved flat, which is it's a fascinating thing to do when you've got a kid, because estate agents go, oh, it's a family, you need a place for a family. How about this place? It's entirely made of stairs, like a nightmarish Escher picture. No, it's not good. And I don't understand why it's called a housing bubble when bubbles are meant to be fun. And we've just moved, and the road that I used to live on was, I sort of thought of it as a microcosm of today's society. And if you don't know what a microcosm is, it's like a cosm that's really small. And this road, right, it was never big enough for 2 cars to go down it at the same time, right? It was designed for 2 cars to go down. It had a line in the middle goading people, but 2 cars could never go down it. And that's probably because it was built before people had cars. You know, it was built when people had horses, and people never used to ride 2 horses down at the same time, and people never used to sort of weirdly park their horses at the side so that it would cause an issue. People wouldn't bring their massive fucking Shetland ponies from the country and take up the entire space. People wouldn't park their tiny little ponies in little rows and fuck up the whole system. But, you know, that's what it's built for. And so what would happen is I'd live 3 or 4 times a week, 2 cars would meet in our road, and they would refuse to back down. And these 2 cars would beep at each other. There'd often be a lot of swear words. Sometimes one that would come out and threaten the other, and then somebody from our street would have to get involved, like a UN peacekeeper. And there'd always be a dog or a child in the back looking like they wanted to die. And it was always just so weird watching these people every week complain, I'm in a rush, you need to move. I'm in a rush, you need to move. But they were never in enough of a rush to just reverse out the way, let the other one go and get on with their lives, right? They were always in enough of a rush to sit there for fucking ages and try and make sure that they won. And it was fascinating watching them. All they wanted was just to win something. just to be heard, just to fucking win something. Do you know what I mean? Just, you can see it in their eyes going, I've just got to win this. I don't want to go back home to my shitty life. I've finished my shitty job. I don't want to see my shitty kids and watch some shitty TV show full of shitty people who are only on it because they won some other shitty TV show. I just want to fucking prove to this piece of shit that I'm a fucking winner here, and I want to die knowing I've achieved something, right? And that's it. You could see it in their eyes. And I always just watched them from my window and often tweeted their license plates because it was funny. But I always wanted to go down and just like tap on their window and say, hey, just leave your cars. Just you're idling it, you're killing yourselves quicker. Just leave your cars. Just fucking shake hands with that person, strip off, hug each other, dance into the fields, embrace life, see it for something new. Just fucking, move on. Just this is pointless. I didn't used to do that. I used to walk up to their windows with a squidgy, tap and ask for a quid, and they'd fuck off really quickly. But, you do what you can. Ladies and gentlemen, what a lovely bunch you are. You've got a lovely evening ahead of you. I've been Tiernan Douieb. Thank you very much.